Today, you probably think there's no more obscure Wizard 101 knowledge out there. It seems like every line of code's been data mined, every old promo's been talked about, and every single glitch has been found. But lucky for you, the truth is, we've only just begun. My name's Gladrocker, and I spend my time discovering Wizard 101 facts so obscure that even veteran players don't know about. So today, let's venture down the Wizard 101 rabbit hole one more time. Let's begin. Everyone knows the rank 9 life spell Gnomes. It's awarded to all life wizards for completing their level 68 spell quest. And as of recently, it's also been added to Melinda Wu's list of trainable life spells, so really any wizard can learn it now. Believe it or not, the devs actually made a glaring mistake while animating this spell. Pay close attention. Can you tell what it is? The gnome's ears are completely backwards. How did KI mess that up? At first I wasn't sure if this was intentional or not, but if you look at the miniature gnomes during the beginning of the animation, all their ears face forwards. So it's safe to assume KI's artists just messed up when designing the large gnome's 3D model. And now that you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. You're welcome. In my second Iceberg video, I talked about how peculiar it is that the term Pokemon is whitelisted in the game's text chat. I speculated that the reason for this is because at some point, KingsIsle intended to collab with Nintendo way back in the day. Sure, this was a pretty far-fetched theory of mine, considering how much larger and more popular Nintendo is than KingsIsle. Like, what would Nintendo even gain from something like this? But believe it or not, I was actually right. Recently, I was shocked to learn about an extremely obscure official Wizard 101 Pokemon promo from way back in July 2009. For context, back in the early 2000s, it was common for television networks to hold events known as marathons, where they'd broadcast multiple episodes of a TV show back to back over an extended period of time, usually to promote upcoming seasons or just to boost viewer engagement. Well, back in July 2009, Cartoon Network held a special Pokemon Marathon TV event, where they aired continuous Pokemon episodes back to back all day long. What's shocking is that KingsIsle actually partnered with Cartoon Network during this broadcast to release a limited time Wizard 101 code. No joke. In between Pokemon episodes, the code Brock2009, named after one of the series' longtime protagonists, popped up on the screen. Players could then redeem this code online to obtain the Death Scarab pet. Sure, it's not the greatest pet, since it only gives one Death Scarab card at Ancient, but remember, not many pets existed in the game yet in 2009, so it was pretty decent for its time. All in all, I was shocked to find out about this obscure promotional Pokemon event. I mean, Wizard 101 and Pokemon are two of my all-time favorite franchises, so to find out they were paired together in a collaboration like this over a decade ago is just incredible. I wish I experienced this event myself. Hey, if my 11-year-old self was watching Pokemon at the time and saw a Wizard 101 code pop up, it would have been a dream come true. Anyone that's quested through Chrysalis knows that at the end of the world, the very last quest involves a cutscene with Old Cobb in Bastion. You see him perched up on some raised ground. You approach him. The music stops. He delivers some ominous words as he releases his children to take over the worlds of the very next arc. It's a chilling cutscene that introduces a whole new threat into the game's plot, leaving the player frightened of what lies ahead. But here's an interesting bug I bet you didn't know about. If you come back to this exact same spot later on and step up onto the raised ground, the music stops as if the cutscene's going to play all over again. Seriously, try it out yourself. It seems like KI accidentally forgot to remove the part of the game's code that cuts out the background music when you step onto the ledge again. How did they manage that? It's worth noting that the background music will stay turned off until you enter a new zone. So if you want, you could just endlessly roam around Bastion in silence. I honestly find it pretty creepy how the joyful Bastion theme just cuts out entirely as the game goes completely silent, reminding you of the tragedies that took place here in the past. Thank you to Gojo Games 7799 for showing me this. Fishing is an optional feature of the game that often goes overlooked by most players, since it's not necessary for questing. And who are we kidding? It's extremely tedious too. But it's a great way to obtain rare gear, mounts, and housing items, so it's definitely worth getting into. I bet you didn't know, there's a neat little Easter egg hidden in one of the fishing spells. Take a look at Charm Fish, a spell used for drawing in all fish towards the caster. It's useful for hard-to-reach fishing spots that you can't stand on, like all the lava pools in Dragonspire. Now pay close attention as I cast Charm Fish in this pond. Notice anything? If the audio sounds familiar, that's because Charm Fish uses the same exact sound effect as the original Unicorn spell. It's a super nostalgic melody that veteran players will appreciate, especially because KI removed it from the Unicorn spell during the summer 2020 update when they updated the audio of several spells. What a shame. Oh, and it is worth noting that you can still hear this melody today during the animation of Sacred Charge. Looks like KI forgot to remove it. In my first Iceberg video, I talked about 3 iconic Wizard 101 TV commercials that aired in November 2012. Each depicting a scene from the original Malastare fight. These beautifully animated cinematic masterpieces captivated fans. You really couldn't find a more highly praised Wizard 101 animation than these 3 commercials at the time. Which is why I'm shocked most players don't know about a 4th, lesser-known TV commercial that was animated just as masterfully. This one aired 1 year later in June 2013. To promote the release of Wizard 101's PvP tournaments. The commercial begins with a live-action segment showing 4 wizards in a locker room, dressed in school-themed outfits. Fire, ice, storm, and death. They proceed to walk down a hallway in slow motion. Then, the commercial switches to 3D animation, as the cast enters a massive PvP arena. Here, we see an impressively animated Jade Oni spell, as well as an Ice Wand spell, what appears to be Mass Sacrifice, also known as Kiss of Death, I don't know what this is, a Storm Wand spell, and finally a Meteor Strike. The whole commercial's animated in a style that once again trumps anything we see in the actual game. It's complete eye candy, and it invokes a great sense of nostalgia watching it today. Even though I personally never watched it back when it aired. I'm just shocked it doesn't get as much love as the 3 Malastare ones. Do any of you actually remember this commercial? If you do, let me know in the comments. Once your wizard reaches level 100, you gain access to Castle Darkmoor, a challenging side dungeon where you explore the castle and defeat Malastare once again, to earn your first Shadow Enhanced school spell. It's honestly a really fun experience that still holds up in difficulty to this day. Here's a really neat bug though, that most players don't know about. After defeating Malastare and talking to Tatiana, your final task is simply talking to Dworgen in the Death School to wrap up the quest. But as soon as you enter the Death School, you'll notice a fully functioning Cyrus Drake, the Myth School professor, standing next to Dworgen. I mean, it makes sense why he's here, because he gets a few dialogue lines of his own, but he shouldn't be offering spells here. Normally, when a professor is seen outside of their own school, they don't train spells, so the fact that Ki accidentally left him the ability to interact with Cyrus here to train myth spells just feels so weird. What's even weirder is that not every trainable myth spell is listed here. This version of Cyrus Drake only offers a subset of all the myth spells you can normally train from him in the Myth School. Several spells are just straight up missing. Is Cyrus so shaken up by the Death School that he forgot how to teach them? It just feels weirdly uncanny seeing him out of place like this offering myth spells. Oh, and after you talk to Dworgen, he does go away. This next fact may not be as obscure as the others, but I still find it super cool. Did you know, if you pay close attention, you can actually hear when a spell's going to fizzle during the beginning of its casting animation. And that's because there's extremely subtle audio differences between both the successful and the fizzled version of each school's spellcast. For example, the myth casting animation's by far the easiest to distinguish. Take a listen. Notice the slight difference? The other schools are a bit harder to distinguish, but with enough practice, you can actually get good at telling them apart. Remember when the PvP arena got a complete makeover back in April 2022? This was a big deal for players, because it was the first time Ki ever redesigned an area. Originally, since the game's launch in 2008, the arena just consisted of a small entrance room with PvP kiosks leading into a circular duel area in the middle, followed by an identical room in the back. And for 14 whole years, the only slight tweaks Ki ever made to the arena were just closing off the public PvP ring in January 2009, adding NPCs fighting that you can spectate in July 2018, and adding Beast Moon kiosks in July 2019. So it was quite a change up when Ki finally decided to renovate the entire zone in April 2022. Here, they greatly expanded the space by adding several new vendors, separating the PvP and Beast Moon kiosks into different sections, and even adding a section for the monthly Decathlon event. I personally loved this change. It was smart of Ki to combine all the game's competitive modes into one main hub. But here's a funny oversight the devs failed to catch when the update went live. If you had a wizard previously inside the old arena, depending on where your wizard was standing, it would get stuck out of bounds in the new arena. For instance, the wizard you're looking at right now was originally standing in the old arena's duel circle, and because the shape of the arena was modified, this wizard's coordinates now lie out of bounds after the update. I'm surprised Ki didn't just prevent this by teleporting all wizards from the arena to the commons or something. Guess they didn't expect this. Oh, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me grow, and it tells me you want to see more videos like this. Thanks everyone, you rock. Some of the coolest pieces of Wizard 101 history are what I like to call Test Realm oddities, or things that were introduced during Test Realm, but then either scrapped or changed before hitting Live Realm. Here's one that you probably don't know. You know that rank 9 death spell Dr. Von's monster? The one that references the Marleybone boss Dr. von Katzenstein, which itself is a reference to the real-world fictional character Dr. Frankenstein, so a reference to a reference. Well, during Zefaria's test realm in November 2011, this spell actually had a completely different name, Katzenstein's Monster. But for some reason, KingsIsle decided to change it to Dr. Von's Monster before the update went live. I'm not really sure why they made this change. In fact, I prefer the original name more, because Katzenstein's Monster sounds closer to Frankenstein's Monster. Funny enough though, you can actually still catch a glimpse of its original name in the official Zafaria update notes even to this day, because KingsIsle forgot to update the graphic showcasing these new level 68 spells. I think that's pretty cool. Let me ask you a question you probably never thought about. Which set of professors do you think is smarter? The Ravenwood professors or the Arcanum scholars? You'd think the answer would be the Arcanum scholars, because you don't access them until you're over level 100. And I mean, just look at them. Sorry, Mulinda, but I'm trusting this telepathic koala over you. Why am I asking this? Well, weirdly enough, players have reported inconsistencies regarding the level requirements for trainable spells between both sets of professors. For example, take a look at this tweet from Master Juan. Here you can see Professor Falmea's level requirement for training Fire Dragon is 52, yet Ignis Ferric's level requirement for training Fire Dragon is 55. My headcanon is just that the Arcanum Scholars are worse professors since they're more focused on saving the world than teaching in their classrooms, so it takes your wizard a higher level to learn from them. But yeah, all jokes aside, this was obviously just a bug, and we know this for sure because according to the devs, it was never intended. And immediately after this tweet was made, it was patched. So now all the level requirements match up between both sets of professors. I don't know about you, but I love learning about retired pets. Especially ones that have been retired from the game for over a decade, like the storm beetle I covered in my second iceberg video. Now allow me to introduce you to a retired pet so obscure that I'm sure you've never heard of, the Frostzilla. It has quite the history too. Back during the Advanced Pets update in May 2010, KI released 3 new pets, all using the same pet body. The first generation Icezilla, which gave an Icezilla card, the first generation Frostzilla, which gave a Stormzilla card, and a hybrid Frostzilla, which also gave a Stormzilla card. Except, I already lied. I told you these pets were released during the Advanced Pets update, but the Icezilla technically was never released at all. It was added during Test Realm, but was scrapped before ever hitting Live Realm, so it's literally impossible for any player to legitimately own one today. And fun fact, KI also planned on introducing a brand new Maycast Frost Beetle talent called Beetle Time, which was exclusive to the Icezilla's talent pool, meaning now both the Icezilla pet and the Beetle Time talent are completely extinct. The first generation Frostzilla did make it past Test Realm, but only for a short time before being retired a few months later in the very next July 2010 update. For those short 2 months though before its retirement, players could obtain it as a drop from the Labyrinth boss Silver Sentinel. Finally, there's the hybrid Frostzilla. Nothing special here. This pet's still regularly obtainable from hatching a Stormzilla with an Ice Colossus pet to this day. You can easily find one in the kiosk. But yeah, those first 2 versions have become extremely obscure parts of Wizard 101's history. Of course, no one can legitimately own an Icezilla pet today, since it was scrapped during Test Realm. But let me know in the comments if you were lucky enough to obtain the first generation Frostzilla as a drop from the Silver Sentinel boss during its 2-month window before retirement. In my second iceberg video, I talked about the infamous Dragonspire gear exploit, where KI completely forgot to set the level requirement on several gear drops when the world first came out in January 2009, allowing low-level wizards to abuse them in PvP. And although I did find evidence in the May 2009 update notes of KI clearly adding level requirements to several pieces of Dragonspire gear, I was never able to find actual video proof of a low-level wizard having kept these items equipped after the patch. And believe me, I tried finding gameplay footage, but let's face it, the odds of finding footage of such an obscure Wizard 101 exploit from over a decade ago are incredibly low. But not impossible, because recently I finally came across actual video evidence of a level 27 wizard equipped with a level 45 and up Dragonspire hat. As you can see, even after KI added the level requirement, the hat hasn't been removed from this player, and we finally have the footage to show it. As a dedicated Wizard 101 historian myself, finally discovering video proof of this is just so groundbreaking and satisfying. It really feels like placing the final piece in a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, I dedicate my life to this stuff, so I'm super happy to share this footage with all of you.